Good evening. Welcome to the Sinclair Gray Show. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sinclair Gray. Each week on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., you can tune in to see the hottest show that brings you information that's relevant and worthwhile to your growth, not only professionally, but also personally. I want to take this time out for thanking all of our sponsors, the Atlanta Business League, but our major sponsor for today is author Adrian M. Tisdale, the author of a dynamic book, Are You Kidding Me? Are Women Really That Gullible? Adrian, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the Sinclair Gray Show.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, we got this book, Are You Kidding Me?
Yes.
First of all, before we get into the book, tell the listening audience a little bit about yourself and how you came up with writing this book.
Well, this book I decided to write because I'm into counseling,
Okay,
have a counseling background,
okay,
and I have a tendency of have a good listening ear. I've always been told that I've had a good listening ear.
okay,
And women have confided in me over the years. Plus, I have 2 grown boys.
okay,
And so with the combination of their dating style, their friends' dating style,
Okay.
the different complaints from other women, I decided to put this book together to, partake some knowledge on other women to try to see if we can come to some kind of medium where we can develop self-worth
Okay.
and self-esteem.
okay.
That's pretty much why I wrote the book.
Well, you know what? I'm amazed because the first thing when we talked previously a couple of weeks ago, before you decided to come on the show, the title is just mind-blowing. Are you kidding me? Are women really that gullible? How did you come up with the title?
Well, believe it or not, I say the words, "Are you kidding me?" a lot.
Okay.
When people talk to me and they'll say something that's really kind of left field,
Okay.
I'll always say, "Are you kidding me?"
Okay.
And then when I started talking to a lot of the young women,
Okay.
and their level of gullibility was, to me, kind of high.
Okay.
And I said, are really women that gullible? Are we really that gullible that we would fall for this line or that line?
Okay.
In the relationships.
Okay.
So that's where I came up with that. I said, are women really, really that gullible?
Okay.
Are we there? Are
Okay.
we, or should we kind of take a few steps backwards and say, okay, let's get our little act together
Okay.
to make sure that we develop our own self-worth and our own self-esteem.
Well, one of the things I know the book talks about is a woman's guide to a healthy, loving relationship. One of the things that the media has really put into a lot of the women's heads is how to have or how to be in a good relationship. We have TV talk show hosts,
Okay.
not going to name any,
Yeah.
but they've been in relationships here, there, and everywhere.
Okay.
We have a lot of reality shows whereby people are trying to live this quote-unquote healthy lifestyle with bling-blinging. And there are a lot of people out there who watch these programs and then try to take these so-called principles, which really aren't principles, and try to apply it to their relationship. So how is
That's
that it?
entertainment.
Okay.
I think of those, and I tell people, matter of fact, in the book,
Okay.
I have a chapter about women in the media.
Okay.
And I use some of the reality shows as examples in the book. And I would like to have young ladies not to mimic their life behind those
Okay.
type of scenarios that they're watching on television.
Okay.
It's not realistic. It's for entertainment purposes only.
Okay.
And they need to really keep that in perspective to say, is this real life? Or
Okay.
is this entertainment? Okay, so there's a true difference between the two in terms of how you're going to really develop a healthy relationship with your mate.
Okay. And one of the things people don't understand, going back to what you said about people in the media, a lot of those shows, it's a script. Some of them are paid to act like a fool.
Exactly. Yes.
And I want to be very clear with that. A lot of these people are acting foolish for the dollar bill.
Exactly.
And because of that, you have a lot of women who are gullible, to use your term, who try to mimic those types of behavior in a relationship.
Especially young people. And that's basically pretty much, this book is geared towards a lot of the younger women
Okay.
to make sure that they're not mimicking that type of behavior,
Okay.
and that they are developing healthy relationships with their counterparts.
Okay. Now let's talk about being gullible. Let's talk about what is a gullible woman. Because a gullible woman can be 18, 28, 48, and 78.
Exactly.
So let's talk about gullible. What defines a gullible woman?
Let me give you let me give you an example from my book, because I put an example in the book.
Okay.
And one of my biggest pet peeves or issues with some women, because we can't classify all
Right,
women
exactly,
under that particular
exactly.
category. With some women, if in fact, if I was dating you and you said to me, well, you know what, I like you and I like Sally down the street. Okay. And I say, well, you know what, I want to have dinner at your house and I want to have dinner at Sally's house, so I'll come to your house 3 days a week and go to Sally's house 2 days a week.
Okay.
Would you think that I would be receptive to that type of relationship?
I would hope not.
And I would automatically, but no, I would say, no, I'm not putting up with that. That's the first thing that I would say to you,
Okay.
is that I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to share you.
Okay.
But if you sort of didn't tell me the truth about the situation,
Okay.
and I knew that you were dating Sally down the street, but I'm still involved in this relationship, even though I know deep down inside that you're seeing both of us.
Okay.
That's where the gullibility comes in.
Okay.
Is that you need to be willing as a woman to expect and to hear the truth,
Okay.
okay, from a man. Whether you like what he's going to say, whether he's going to say something that's going to throw you off your game,
Okay.
or whether he's going to be truthful, or whatever the case may be, you need to take it for what it is.
Okay.
If a man is not ready to settle down, and you're putting him in a position where you're trying to force the issue, I have to have that ring, I have to have
Okay.
that bling bling, and I want to get married, or I want to have a baby, and he's not there yet,
Okay.
but he doesn't really want to lose you. So he's going to pretty much tell you what you want to hear to keep you in that spot.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to women, the women of today, is that you need to be within your own right, have enough self-esteem to be whole with yourself to say, well, okay, he's not ready to take that step.
Okay.
I have to make the decision to either wait on this man or
Okay.
to move on.
Okay.
Okay? And stop being gullible enough where you're going to listen to whatever he tells you because
Okay.
you want to listen to that situation because you want this man at all costs.
Okay.
And that's what the problem is.
And one of the things I know we talked about before we came on the show, and I know I'm gonna touch on a touchy topic,
Yeah.
and I think it needs to be said. So I want to make sure everybody hears it. Grab everyone around the computer, because this is something that we need to really discuss. And we talked about this. When I grew up, before my mother transitioned, my mother always told me, make sure you handle your own business. My mother, I was blessed to have two parents. Grew up with two parents. My mother could handle her own financially, and so could my father. My mother was never dependent upon my father financially. I find today a lot of women, once again, not classifying all women, just want to make sure, I don't want to get no nasty emails or hate letters. I find that a lot of women, when they get in relationships, within about a month or two, they're expecting a man to start paying bills. My question is this: how all of a sudden you expecting a man to pay bills when you got in a relationship? Who was paying your bills before that?
Well-
or dealing from a financial
Yeah.
perspective? We all go through issues. I understand that.
Yeah.
But what I've been hearing from a lot of different women I'm doing seminars with, well, if I'm dating him for 2 or 3 months, he needs to help me with my water bill. He needs to help me with my mortgage. You're not married. Why should he help you?
Well,
And that's my question.
Yeah, and my take on that is that if that man is not living at your household, he has separate quarters. There's no reason for him to help you with your bills. Okay? That's my take on it. If you live your lifestyle, he lives his lifestyle, you're paying your bills, you've been paying, your bills the whole time, all of a sudden this man is in your life, now you want him to pay your bills, but he's not living at your house.
And the question is, how are your bills getting paid?
Prior to him getting there.
Maybe another brother got tired of paying the bills.
Well, you know what?
I'm more teasing on that.
No, I'm gonna tell you this. You know what the problem is? Men, when they start to date women, you need to make sure you're not dating the representative and you're dating the real person.
Okay.
Okay. And what I mean by that is that if a person starts to change after 30 to 60 days in that relationship, and you notice that paragon shift to all of these demands about all of a sudden they're so financially strapped, okay, you were dating their representative. You really weren't dating them. So I don't think money should exchange hands between couples in the beginning of a relationship period.
But I know in your book you talked about how there are a lot of women out there who are gullible.
Yes.
I know in one of the chapters you find a lot of sexual promiscuity.
Yes.
We want to be nice and use that word. That are laying with different men in order to get something. Hair done, nails done, rent paid, some type of bill paid. And that's the type of woman that we have to call gullible.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the things that I would like for you to touch on is about this whole concept of self-worth and self-esteem.
Well, today I find that I did case study on about 9 or 10 women in my book. And what I found across the board was that the self-esteem and the self-worth wasn't there.
Okay.
Okay. And I found that a lot of the self-esteem was being lost in the essence of them.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that I always tell women, every time you're with someone, you leave a part of your soul.
Right.
You leave a part of your essence. So when I tell women all the time, when you're giving away the cookies, you're giving away more than that.
Right.
Okay. And so when you're doing that, you're leaving a lot of your soul and yourself behind.
Okay.
And a lot of times there's regret with that. And so in order for that not to happen, you need to take care of your own bills. You need to develop your own self-worth. You need to be there to have your own self-esteem.
Okay.
You need to be able to pay your own rent. I mean, if you come together with a man and both of you are thinking about getting married and you're moving in together, you're buying a house together, then you can start commingling funds where he's paying this and you're paying that. And even in a relationship, because I've been married a long time, both my husband and I, we have to pay both of the bills. My husband is not the one that's always out making all the money. I have to bring money to the table too for both of our lifestyles to be enjoyable. And for women to put that on a man to say, well, he needs to take care of me.
Right.
He needs to take care of me. And, this is what I hear a lot, particularly with the young people. If he can't take care of me, I don't want to be bothered with him. Okay. I need to get with a man that's got some money. I need to get with a man that's got, Mercedes, Lexus. If he doesn't have that, he doesn't have the bling bling, I don't want to be bothered. Right. And it's not even about that. It's about developing that relationship. And it's also about what you bring to the table.
Exactly. Because a man who is successful, and I know I'm going to get probably hate mail on that, a person who is successful doesn't want a liability.
Exactly.
He wants an asset.
Exactly.
And, not to say that a person is a piece of property, but if you can't add value to a person, then why does that person want to deal with you?
And that's where I'm saying that women need to bring something to the table. If you're expecting a man of wealth, a man of self-esteem, a man that's going to be settled in his own right, you need to be that too. Okay? Both parties need to come together and be whole to have a healthy relationship.
But people are not taught that. That's not the popular norm.
I know.
No, Adrian, because we hear it all the time. You just hit. I want this man to take care of me. And one of the things, I like what you told me before the show, is the advice that your mother gave you.
Yeah.
Can you share the advice that your mother gave you?
Well, when I was a young girl, my mother said to me, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice. One is you need to get an education. And she said, I'm going to make sure you get an education. And then another thing is, she said, you need to keep a job to take care of yourself. Do not expect a man to take care of you. And that advice I carry throughout my whole life. Okay. I've always worked. From the time that I was a young girl, I've always worked. Okay, so it's been up and downs. Of course, some people, you may lose a job and then you have to go to another job. That's totally different if it's on a temporary basis. But to expect someone to take care of you is not. We take care of children.
Okay.
That's who you're supposed to take care of. You take care of children. If you have minor children, that's who you are beholden to take care of.
Okay.
We're not supposed to raise adults over again, and we're not supposed to financially take care of adults. Adults have to bring something to the table.
Okay.
Now, it's totally different if you have a relationship and I meet you, we decide we want to get married, and we decide together that you want me to stay home with the children, I'm not going to work. That's a decision that both of us made together for our relationship. But it shouldn't be a decision that's being made because I need for you to take care of me and I'm not going to do anything unless you're going to take care of me. It shouldn't be that type of situation at all.
And because of that, some of those women are gullible.
Yes.
So what other ways have you found women to be gullible?
Well, I found, in the book, I write about a chapter that is really close to my heart because you have some women in the book that talk about other women, using different vocabulary, with a whore and all different types of, different names of different things that they shouldn't be calling other women. And it bothers me.
Okay.
It bothers me because all of us have been at that juncture in our life. And the reason why I say that is that in the book I do a strong comparison.
Okay.
Some people may be mad at me for comparing,
but no problem.
Basically I do a very strong comparison. And the comparison is what's the difference between a woman that actually sleeps with several different men, and each one of them are paying for her hair, her nails, and all of that type stuff. And basically she's sleeping with these various different men, leaving her essence behind every single time she sleeps with each man.
And they're, in a sense, leaving a piece of themselves.
Exactly. As opposed to a woman that you're calling a whore or a prostitute that's getting $50 for a John, and she sends them packing in 5 minutes. So who do you think is the better woman? The woman that spent 24 hours cooking, cleaning, washing dishes, having sex for 24 hours with this man just to get $50 from the man to get her nails done, or the woman that actually had a John for 5 minutes and received $50? And people tell me all the time, oh, you shouldn't say that, but it's the reality of it, okay? You need to understand where we're at. And I've heard some women say, well, you know what, if he doesn't buy me a car, I'm not going to sleep with him. Or if I can't get this dishwasher, I'm not going to sleep with him. If my husband don't do this for me, I'm not going to do this. It shouldn't be that type of relationship.
Right.
It should be a wholesome relationship where each person is whole. Male is not responsible for a female's happiness. And I learned that, the hard way as I got older. Because in the beginning of my life, I always thought that too. My husband needs to make me happy. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. But that's not true. I need to make me happy.
Right.
Once I make me happy, then we make each other happy.
Exactly.
That's how a relationship is supposed to go. You're not supposed to look to someone else for your happiness, because if you're not happy, you can't bring anything to the table.
And that's because we're dealing with this book with women. That's what I find a lot of people have problems with. They use the word, he's not making me happy. And I tell people, you can't give someone that much power to make you happy, because if they can make you happy, they can also make you sad.
And that is where the self-esteem is being drained and ripped from the woman.
Wow.
Okay? Because when you put your happiness, like you said, in someone else's hands, they pretty much control.
Exactly. They control your emotions.
They control your emotions up and down. They control your self-esteem. They control your self-worth. And I always tell people, I know my worth.
Okay.
I know exactly what my worth is. And my husband knows that I know what my worth is, because I let him know that I know what my worth is. And I've been married for 30 years.
Right.
And so, and I still let him know.
Exactly.
But the fact of the matter is that you have to control your own life. Your own destiny, your own life, your own self-esteem, your own worth. And if you're able to do that, then you can bring a wholesome relationship to someone else where you can have a long-term happy relationship. Because if it's not whole, bringing it in, garbage in is garbage out.
Exactly. You have a lot of interesting titles. I want to. We have some titles in here called "Raising a Woman," "Generation to Generation." Chapter 6 is "Did He Change or Did I?" Chapter 9, "Lust versus Love." Chapter 10, "Hooking Up and Jumping Off." So I mean, we have a lot of interesting titles. But one of the chapters I want you to kind of explain is chapter 2, "Generation to Generation." We have a lot of young women out here that have been brought up in a single-family home, and some great role models, some great role models, some not so great. What would you say? How do you break a generational? Let's use this. How do you break a generational curse to a young woman who has seen mom relationship after relationship, baby daddy after baby daddy? I mean, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
And no structure, no foundation. How do you help that young woman, that young lady, not to become gullible from this book?
Well, basically in the book, it talks about how we need to learn how to cook soup.
Okay.
That's what it says in that book. We need to learn how to cook soup. Nowadays, a lot of the soup is watered down.
Okay.
Okay. We need to be able, I remember, it's in the book, and there's no secret to it because it's actually in the book. When I was younger, I was raped. And I couldn't get over it. I really, really couldn't get over it. And it took my grandmother to get me over it.
Okay.
And basically, it wasn't about me going to the therapist, because back then, you didn't go to therapy.
Okay.
There was no such thing. Something happened to you.
You just pray about it.
You just prayed about it, and something happened to you that, you kind of brush it off. So basically, one of the things that my grandmother told me was that you have to dig deep in your soul. You have to know where you're at. And the flesh is just the flesh, but the soul is the soul. And you have to pray and get your soul whole again.
Okay.
And sort of that kind of like got me through it dealing with my grandmother.
Okay.
So when I say generation to generation, we need to look back and listen to the older generation, which is not being done today. We need to seek out our elders.
Okay.
Women need to seek out elders and listen to the stories from those elders about what happened, what's being passed on to various different generations. And that's why I said that today the soup is diluted. We keep adding water to it. There's no good stock in there.
Okay.
And we need to have soup that has good stock.
Okay.
In order for you to get good stock, you have to listen to elder women who have been there, who have had those type of experiences that can pass on that information to you.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying generation to generation. We need to consistently pass it on. From my grandmother to my mom, from my mom to me. From me, if I had a daughter, I would have to pass it on to my daughter. But we need to make sure that we're passing on a certain number of values, ethics, self-worth, and self-esteem that we're instilling in that young lady to be motivated to move on and not sell herself short.
Right.
A lot of the women today, they get so hooked up into a lot of the media hype, X-rated tapes, all that kind of crazy nonsense that's going on, the sharing of men that's going on. I mean, and that shouldn't be.
And one of the things what I find amazing, I might be one of the odd men I think about that will probably say is all the little skimpy type of clothing.
Ooh.
I tell people that just doesn't turn me on because I can leave something for the imagination. Number two, we can already establish whether or not you're an attractive woman. I can't call anybody ugly. I had an old church member say, Dr. Sinclair, you can't call everybody ugly. We're all beautiful. Okay, we'll use that term. Not everybody's attractive to everybody.
That's true.
But what I'm finding, more people are concerned about what they wear what they got on, than what's in their head and what's in their heart and what's projected in their spirit. And to me, women become so gullible. Not all women now. Because if they think that, oh, I look good, I got to make sure I eat the right foods, I go to the gym, I got to get my hair, I got to get if everything is always material, you'll become very gullible. Because what that simply means, if I just keep feeding, or whoever it is keeps feeding into that material, that material appetite, you're fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to having a serious conversation, which your book talked about, what are your goals? What are your educational goals? What do you want to do in life? And they sit back like a deer in the headlights, like, I don't know. I'm just living day by day. That means you're gullible.
Well, you know what, I tell people all the time, endorphin rush is between the ears, not any place else. So people need to understand that it's amazing that when you have a good relationship, a wholesome relationship, you find some women that says, oh, size matters, it's about the size, it's about this, it's about that. But then they don't understand why they're not being totally satisfied. Because it's between the ears.
Exactly.
That's where it's at. And that's where people need to understand that you have to have a relationship where you're enjoying to that other person. Okay, you have to be enjoying to that other person in order for you to get that experience that you're looking for.
Right.
If you're not enjoying with that other person, you're not going to get that experience. I don't care what the size is.
Exactly. Oh, Lord. Now, you talked about completeness. The problem is many people are looking, many women in this case, because we're dealing with the book, are you kidding me? Are women really that gullible? There are a lot of women are looking for a man to complete them. What's the difference between completing and complimenting?
Big difference. To complete someone means that there's something missing.
Okay.
There's something lost. And you have to fill in the gaps of that person.
Okay.
You're really telling that person who they are. You're giving that person their identity. And that person's really becoming an extension of what you want that person to be. Okay. A person that's complete comes to the table. They don't need to have that. They don't need to have that acceptance as to being complete or whole or having their self-worth or self-esteem. They already know that they have self-esteem. They can also know how to say no. One of the biggest things is that women with low self-esteem, a lot of times they fall victim to drug abuse and various other different things that are going on because of the fact that they don't have the self-worth that they need or the strength to say no. They're looking to a man to lead them in the direction that they need to be. And that's not, this book is a book to help women to build their own self-esteem, to build their own self-worth. So when you get to a relationship, and even if you're in a relationship, to help you to cultivate and develop that relationship where it's long-lasting and it's not a couple of month trial-based relationship.
Well, because I think one of the things that people need to understand is that relationships are important.
They are. They're very important.
Adrian, I want to thank you so much. Producers, letting us know we got to wrap this thing up. A couple things I want you to, real quick, leave our audience with an important point from your book. And also tell people how they can get in contact with you to get this book and for speaking engagements and book signing.
You can go to my website, which is www.adriantisdale, and that's ADrianTisdale.com. On my website, there's some contact information. You can also reach me by phone, which is 678-934-4934. You can also email me at info@adriantisdale.com.
And lastly, what last piece of advice you would give?
The last piece of advice I would get is, of course, to get my book.
Of course.
And to work on self-esteem and self-worth. Because that's where it's at. You need to develop that self-worth. You need to develop that self-esteem. And you also need to look to elder women who have been there, who have experienced it.
Excellent. Thank you so much once again, Adrian. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Sinclair Gray Show. Each and every week, it is my hope and desire to bring forth new entrepreneurs, new authors who are making a difference. So why don't you go out and get your book? Go to adriantisdale.com, get your book. Remember, in anything that you want to do, you have to have a healthy relationship. As long as you know who you are and whose you are, you have to be comfortable within yourself. Never allow someone to have that much power over you as we've talked about today. Because as long as you love yourself and value yourself, then you can demand and expect the best for yourself. Until next week, I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Sinclair Gray for the Sinclair Gray Show. Always remember that God loves you, and so do I.